The India-Pakistan War of 1965 was a major armed conflict between the two neighboring countries that took place from August 5 to September 23, 1965. It was a result of escalating tensions and unresolved issues, primarily centered around the disputed territory of Kashmir. Here is a detailed account of the war, its causes, major events, and aftermath. Causes. Tensions between India and Pakistan had been simmering since their partition in 1947. The issue of Kashmir, a predominantly Muslim region with a Hindu ruler, had remained a contentious point between the two nations. Pakistan claimed that Kashmir should be part of its territory based on religious demographics, while India argued that the ruler's decision to accede to India was legitimate. Events of the war. The war was triggered when Pakistani infiltrators, supported by the Pakistani army, crossed into Indian-administered Kashmir in August 1965. Their aim was to incite an uprising against Indian rule. India launched Operation Gibraltar to counter these infiltrations. In response, Pakistan launched Operation Grand Slam, a military offensive aimed at capturing the town of Akhnoor in Indian-administered Kashmir. The war witnessed intense air and ground operations. The Pakistani Air Force launched preemptive air strikes on Indian airfields on September 1, 1965, targeting major cities like Amritsar, Pathankot, and Srinagar. The Indian Air Force responded with counterattacks, and aerial engagements took place over various locations. Notable among these was the Battle of Lonjwala, where Indian pilots successfully defended their positions against a much larger Pakistani force. On the ground, the Indian Army launched multiple offensives in the Western Theatre, primarily in the Punjab and Rajasthan sectors. The Battle of Chavinda, fought in the Sialkot sector, witnessed intense tank warfare between the two sides. The Battle of Asal Uttar, in the Khemkaran sector, saw the Indian Army successfully repelling Pakistani advances. International involvement. The war garnered international attention, with major powers and international organizations attempting to mediate and de-escalate the conflict. The United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Nations were among the key actors involved in diplomatic efforts. However, their attempts to broker a ceasefire and find a lasting resolution were largely unsuccessful. Ceasefire and Tashkent Declaration. On September 22, 1965, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire. A day later, both sides agreed to a UN-brokered ceasefire, effectively ending the war. The ceasefire was followed by negotiations in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, between Indian Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri and Pakistani President Ayub Khan. The talks resulted in the signing of the Tashkent Declaration on January 10, 1966. The declaration called for a ceasefire, withdrawal of forces to pre-war positions, and the resumption of diplomatic dialogue between the two countries. Casualties and impact. Both India and Pakistan suffered significant human losses during the war. Exact figures vary, but it is estimated that thousands of soldiers from both sides lost their lives, with many more injured or missing in action. Civilian casualties and displacement also occurred, as people were forced to leave their homes in the conflict zones. The war had a profound impact on the relationship between India and Pakistan. It did not resolve the underlying issues, including the Kashmir dispute, and further strained bilateral relations. However, it led to a recognition of the need for diplomatic engagement and paved the way for future peace talks between the two nations. The India-Pakistan War of 1965 remains a significant event in the history of both countries, with lasting implications for their relationship and the wider geopolitical dynamics in the region.